Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I have my very special guest, Alex Figueroa, back on the show. And today we're going to be talking about A House of Wax, which is a remake of Mystery of the Wax Museum. And before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself, Alex, and your channel and what you do on there?
Yeah, so my name is Alex Figueroa, and we have a YouTube channel called Geeks and Flix, where we pretty much break down director spotlight, which we break down all the works for directors. Now we're doing a tournament, an action movie tournament of heroes. So all the action heroes that you all loved is inside this bracket, and each week every 2 weeks, we're gonna be having them battle. So it's like your favorite matchups that you wish for, right? So we had Neo versus John Wick. Never gonna happen, but that was one of my favorite. It's the first one to kick it all off. So now we're going to have Han Solo versus Indiana Jones. So that's the next one that's coming up. Then we have Tony Scott month, which that's coming up soon also for Director Spotlight is Tony Scott. The first 8 movies. Then the next month, we're going to do 9 through 16. And then we're going to rank all of his movies in that second part. So this is the first Director Spotlight with 2 parts. Then we have an action movie guys podcast where me and Nate host, and we do franchise action movies, and then we do solo action movies. So we give a lot of people 2 episodes a week of action movies, maybe your favorite action movies. I mean, we're up to 228 episodes. So we just finished the Charlie's Angels. Yeah, we did Charlie's Angels 2000, awesome. And I just released Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. So we got the sequel on that one. So it's been a blast going through all these action movies and talking about them. But yeah, if you guys want to check it out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Action Movie Guys, or anywhere you listen to your podcast on, and of course on YouTube, Geeks and Flix, if you guys want to join us live Mondays at 9 p.m. and join on the conversation. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, make sure to check them out, like he said, and there will be links for all of that in the description of this video. All right. And so Alex came on before for Mystery of the Wax Museum a couple episodes back, and now he's here today to talk about the reboot. And we're going to kind of see, a review of the film itself, but also see, is it better than the original? Is the original better? Kind of determining, which is better, kind of a redo or redon't like you do on your show a little bit.
Yeah.
And so before we get started with that, I have some movie details to share about this film.
Okay.
So House of Wax came out in 1953, and a random fact, this film was made in 3D, but according to the film's IMDb page, the director of the movie, his name is Andre Titov, he was blind in one eye, so he couldn't actually see 3D to begin with. So
it was like foggy one eye, yes. And the rest was clear. Oh, so Jesus.
I don't know why. It was probably a studio decision to make it 3D. I think it was really hot right then. So I don't know why they picked him. He can't even see.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
It seems kind of cruel. I don't know.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, he couldn't see the effect at all. Another detail. So after this film was released, it was the highest and biggest grossing film of the year, especially for Warner Brothers.
Okay.
They tried to continue on with doing 3D movies the following year with a movie called Phantom of the Rue Morgue, but it was such a flop that it totally killed the whole 3D industry for 50 years.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so they kind of abandoned it after that. But it's interesting because we'll talk a little bit later on about it, but you could definitely tell there were scenes that were like, this is in 3D, here's why it's here, So I'm curious to see it in a theater in 3D because it's mainly on 2D, unfortunately. But yeah, those are some details about the movie and the production and whatnot. So now we'll get into our thoughts on the plot. So Alex, what are your thoughts and what do you give it at a scale of 1 out of 5?
Well, all right. So, what's crazy is that the plot is exactly like Mystery of the Wax Museum. Like it's pretty much, it's pretty much dead on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they changed a little bit here and there, but it's pretty much. If you play both movies at the same time, you're watching the same movie, with just 2 different actors playing the main leads, and then Marie Antoinette, 2 different female leads there, and then all the bad guys and the cops and the way everything. Now, I wanted to ask you, did you feel like they used the same set from Mystery of the Wax Museum?
It kind of did feel like that. Even some of the shots were almost identical too.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
felt weird. Like I was
Yeah.
watching this movie, I was like, wait a minute, did they just went to the same lot they filmed the original and just like we still have these props? Let's use it for the remake. I
They
mean, it looked
must
just
have.
like that. Yeah, because when you put when you really look at the at Vincent Price in the beginning, just like the other guy did, it was identical the same. When
Uh-huh.
the guy wanted the insurance money and burns everything down and they fight, I'm like, this is exactly the same thing that happened in the other one. But in terms of the plot line was the same. Nothing changed at all. Is it good or bad? I gotta say, no. I
Hmm.
think in terms of like a reboot or redone or you want to say, a remake over an original, I always prefer taking the original, tweak it a bit. Let's see what new could come out of it, right? Like The Fly. When me and you're gonna do The Fly, right?
Right,
We're gonna
right.
see the original, and then we're gonna see the remake of it with Jeff Goldblum. That is a movie to me is the best remake ever from the original because it took whatever the original was and it made it 80s version, but 100 times better, right?
Hmm.
You don't get this with the House of Wax. You're getting kind of the same movie. Now, I'm not going to deduct it like a lot of points because I think they played it safe. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. It's a safe way to play the plot. And for a lot of people that wasn't around for the Mystery of the Wax Museum, and they're watching it now with the Godfather of horror. That's what I call Vincent Price.
Hmm.
You know, I think it was I guess it was the right way. I guess you want to start it off. But with that said, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think the plot. I'm not going to give it a perfect plot because we already saw it in the original. So
Right.
I'm gonna slap it with a 4 out of 5 in terms of plot.
Nice. Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. And like you said, there's very, very minute changes they did. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, so
Okay.
not too far from you. Pretty much the same. Uh, I was a little disappointed. I know in the last one you did not like the reporter lady. I really
Yeah.
liked that character, so having that element gone to me took all the comedy out of it, which is I
Yeah.
think was needed in this movie. It felt a little too serious, if that makes sense.
No, no, it makes. I mean, it makes absolute. I mean, it makes sense because she had the annoying friend,
Uh huh.
right? And but this one they didn't have that aspect. It was mostly, you know, it it, it was cool the way they did it here, but you're right. They did it more serious. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, she looks kind of familiar, but it wasn't the annoying to everyone. Like, I'm gonna go back in there and I'm gonna raise her. Like, wait a minute, what? What are you doing? Um, but the reveals, like even with the reveals, I like the big, like the famous reveal at the end, kind of the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. It's
It's
the
exactly
same
the same.
shot.
Yeah.
It's the same. So I mean, even Marie and Antoinette, like the same, silhouettes, right? When they show the actress over her face over the wax version.
Uh huh.
And but I will ask you this though, Harrison. Which Marie Antoinette did you like better? This version or the original?
Huh. That's a good question. I think the original, just
Okay.
because I don't know, it may have to do with just how the movie looked. I think it
Yeah.
looked a lot more like a wax figure in that movie than it did in this one. This one felt more like real people standing there, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you mean. They didn't look as polished like
Right.
the other one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally get what you mean on that one. So 3.5. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I do really like Vincent Price. I think his motives uh were really excellent. It's pretty much the same as the other one, but the way he plays the character, and maybe I'll save that for acting, but I kind of like his approach a little bit more for this storyline because they set it in like Victorian era, like 1901 or something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really liked how they changed that so it's not like present day or anything like that. Um, yeah, I really liked those changes. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's move on to the acting. What are your thoughts on the acting for this film?
Oh, it's phenomenal. See, the both movies, I think that's the strength of both films are
Hmm.
the acting. See, I'm not. I mean, I tell everyone. I mean, we do the whole acting. We give scores or something. We're not acting coaches. I mean, because if we
No,
were, we'd be in acting. I mean, we'd be actors, right? We'd
that's
be
what we'd be
ourselves.
doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll be doing. I mean, in movies, but is it believable? I mean, both versions of the films. I think the strengths are the acting. I think they're good. Now, the Vincent Price compared to the other guy, right? The original dude that played him, his character, they're identical. Like Vincent Price to me was a little bit better because again, modern actor from at that time. So he had more acting chops, or I mean, we don't know how much more jobs he did, and you know what I mean. Like he learned the craft more than the other guy because the other guy was old already. The dude was
Right. He
old,
seemed like an old
right?
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, Vincent Price was kind of semi in his prime, right? If you want to look at it that way. So for me, Vincent Price to me elevated that performance, I guess, right? But I think they both was equal, dude. Like I really thought both was equal. Marie Antoinette, both chicks. To be really honest with you, I thought they were good. I agree with you on this. The friend was more annoying in the first one, but she was really good for that type of story. And this one, the friend was more serious in this one than the other one. Then the boyfriend, the two boyfriends in the two movies, kind of dodo birds. They were both the same, right? Then you had them, the two mute guys. To me, they were the same, right? So to me, everything was in the same playing field. It was nothing was a little bit better, heightened. Like, whoa, we're in the 50s compared to what the original, I think it was 33 or something like that, where the other one was. There was nothing elevated, right? 20 something, 20 years later type film. So for me, Vincent Price was a little bit notch better than the original guy, but everything across the board was the same. I can't say, oh, this decade was amazing in acting or whatever, because to me, it was all the same. And I enjoyed both films. I want people to understand, I like both films, but to me, Vincent Price performance elevated the movie. And that's why I always like House of Wax 53 more than 33 version. So acting, I gave it a 5 across the board for both. I gave it a 5.
Nice. Well, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Ooh.
But I totally agree with what you're saying about Vincent Price. To me, he is the highlight of the movie. And I actually like him more than the original guy because to me, Vincent Price, at least his acting, he seems more, what's the word? More of a romantic, right? Like you kind of empathize with him a little bit more than the other guy. The other guy, he just seems straight up evil, like a little creepy too. Like Vincent,
emotion. Like he brought out his emotional.
Exactly. And that's why I like Vincent Price a lot more. But the thing that really brought it down to me was the Sue Allen character played by Phyllis Kirk. I just didn't think she was a good actress. To me, like she'd be super hammy in some scenes, super just kind of annoying. I just thought she was really annoying. I don't know what else to add to that, but yeah. I have an example of it. Let's see. Oh, she was way over the top when she finds out her friend is actually the wax figure. She's like, oh no. Like it was way over the top. I was like, no, this is not good. So I brought it down. I did like seeing Charles Bronson as the silent guy. That was pretty cool. But he was exactly the same as the other, like you said. I wish he was more like Charles Bronson, you know? But yeah, that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. And yeah, Vincent Price was great. I'm glad you did recommend this one because I really did like Vincent Price.
Yeah, I mean, there's other movies. I mean, we could talk about, but I think Vincent Price is a hell of an actor for horror and stuff. But yeah, he did a great job in this one. I mean, like I said, like even the famous scene that from the other movie too. When she slaps the wax off and it's like bam, bam, bam. Same thing here. This one was more. It was more engaging, more emotion. Because again, Vincent Price is elevating that character. And then he knocked her out and tried to throw the wax on her. So like it was all the same, right? It's the same scene. But to me, both was well. But Vincent Price, man, he's just a hell of an actor. Like it's just nothing you can say. It's just so good. I love House of Wax. I mean, I know people that prefer the remake over the Vincent Price. They say it's boring. I'm like, what? Okay, say sure. Like, I mean, people's opinions is people's opinions. That's like I don't get mad at it. Like if people would prefer the Paris Hilton version of House of Wax, okay. I'm not here to debate. That's your opinion. I prefer the Vincent Price way better than, and I always like old school movies too. Like I wish this was in black and white. Imagine I would have loved to see this movie in black and white.
Yeah,
I love black and white movies. So I just like to see everything in monochrome. I'm just a
Yeah.
monochrome kind of guy. Yeah, I just like to slap it with the monochrome. But yeah, but a 5 for me and a 3.5 for you.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to directing. What were your thoughts on kind of the direction of this movie?
All right, so I was a little down because it was the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like the direction is the same as the other one, so it's not like they did. I mean, he did do certain things better than the original, um, but it was kind of the same movie. It's like that Psycho remake that he did shot for shot with Alfred Hitchcock. I felt like
Right,
that's
right.
where we got here. And in terms of why you didn't like that girl, I don't fault her. I fault more the director because he's the one
Mm,
directing her in those scenes. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you to change the scores, nothing. But what I'm saying is that falls under the director. Those scenes, how she's acting, if you're gonna be over the top, like, I don't want you to do more. You're doing way too over the top. I need to bring it down a bit.
Right,
Like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like you're way too over. Like that's more director to me. Like the acting is, I always thought it's like two different things, right? You have the actor doing the acting, then the director has to place them right where they want. How he brings out the emotions out the actors. I need you to cry more here. So did he do a good job? I think he did a great job with Vincent Price in terms of directing. I think whatever he did with Vincent Price was just great.
Mm,
But I agree with you with the females and everything was not as good directing wise. I think he should have made the cut. Let's do this again type of
yeah.
scenario until you get it right. But in terms of that, I gave it a 3 out of a 5. I don't think his directing was as strong. Then I prefer the director from the original because that was the first time we saw this type of movie, right? With the
Right,
reveal and
right.
everything. We already got the same thing on the second one. So I had to deduct points. So I gave it a 3 out of a 5.
Nice. So I gave it a 2.5 out of 5.
Not
um,
wrong.
to me, just the whole premise of this movie, the whole production of it, it feels really gimmicky. Like, I think the whole point of it was just to show the 3D technology. And they just chose a movie. They're like, hey, we could just use this plot, change it a little bit, but it's the exact same thing. And maybe it's more of the studio's fault, but I do think the director could have done different things because it was almost shot for shot in a lot of scenes. Like in the beginning when he's stealing the corpse, right? Like that was exactly the same as the
Mm-hmm.
original one. And like we mentioned with the wax face coming off and all that, it's exactly the same. Um, and do we really need to have these 3D scenes? Like the guy at the paddleboard, oh, we're in 3D. Oh, look at this thing. He's like, look at the camera. You want some popcorn? Like, he was breaking the fourth wall. I hated that so much.
I hate movies that break the fourth wall. Like
Yeah.
I don't like Deadpool. Because of that fourth wall breaking. I
Mm.
don't like the Harley Quinn, whatever was the movie that she's talking in front of the camera.
I
I
haven't seen
hated that
that
movie.
one.
Not Birds of Prey. Is it Birds of Prey? Yeah, it's Birds of Prey. I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
Birds of Prey, right? That's the movie where her and Black Canary and all that. She talks in
Oh,
front
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
camera. Yeah, I'm not with that. I hate the fourth wall stuff. It just takes me out the movie for some reason. But yeah, I know what you talk about. I thought that whole paddle thing was pretty cool because I was like, man, it looked really like Matt hardcore though. He
Yeah,
had it
yeah.
on point. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. The 3D was not good. It was not good
No,
at all. Mm-mm.
no. And I guess it did really good though, because they tried it again. But yeah, even 3D now, I think is still gimmicky. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Depending on the
anyway,
movie, though, I think that
yeah,
it all falls down on the movie because
yeah.
everyone told me Avatar 2 is amazing in 3D.
That actually, okay, yeah, I do agree with that. It did look really good. It did in IMAX 3D too. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. Everyone told me. Well, James Cameron's known for technology, so
Mhm.
that's gonna look fantastic.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of that, let's move on to cinematography and special effects. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, this is hard to say, right? Because it's the same crap.
Right.
Right. So like I can't just go, oh, this is an amazing thing. Like, yeah, it's amazing because they redid the first movie. But I gotta say, Vincent Price make him look way better though. When they hit the wax off, and he looked all
Mm,
like, oh
yeah.
my god, like he looked very like honestly like that special effects look way better than the original.
Oh,
The original he
definitely,
looked more
definitely.
burnt. He had like that burnt, but of course he died. I mean, everyone thought he died in the fire, but this one looked more gory. Like it just looked more creepier for me. So I gave it kudos for that. Everything else in terms of the wax humans, I guess you want to call it, I wasn't too strong for because I think I agree with you. They could have looked way better how they portrayed them on like the waxes, the actors. But I give a credit to all the actors though, because they stood there for a while. I don't know if I could, as an actor, stay there like
Yeah, I
posing
don't know,
like
man.
all day. Yeah, I don't know if I could pull that off. But cinematography, like I said, there was some cool shots in the movie. I'll say there was a lot of cool shots in the movie, but it's pretty much a repetitive. So I'm gonna give it a 3, like directing. It's a 3 out of a 5. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, nice. Well, I may be contradicting myself here, but I give it a 5 out of 5 because uh, I just really like the costumes they did. I think they looked really cool for this time period. I was really impressed with that. Um, yeah, I thought the wax figures looked fake, but I did like the Vincent Price makeup, and I did love the lush colors. I think the colors in this really popped and looked really excellent on camera here. I'll give credit where credit's due, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I also like the machine that they were using to create the figures. I think that looked really cool. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
all
Whack, yeah.
bubbles and all that. It looked really cool. Let's see. But yeah, overall, I thought it looked really good, all things considered. But yeah, it does look exactly the same.
Yeah, nothing.
But I think it did enhance some of the scenes a little bit more. Like, even though I did mention that he stole the body, it was a lot more suspenseful than the original one. The original one was just kind of random. Like, oh, there's a guy still in a body. What? But in this one,
Threw him
we
out the window.
yeah, I was like, what the heck? It looked really cheesy.
Yeah, that was bad cheesy.
Yeah. This one they did a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what are your thoughts on the music?
Oh, it's amazing. Both movies had great soundtracks.
Mhm.
Um, the score, I think, for both films are very strong. So that's a 5 across the board for me. Because I think the scores are, I mean, it's not the same. So that's a plus for
Mhm.
me. But it was just good. To be honest with you, it elevated the scenes because when they fought in that fiery in his original House of Wax,
Yeah.
um, you felt the emotion when he was like, "No," he threw him and like, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god!" You really felt everything, and I think that's what because I felt that scene more in this version than the original because
Agreed.
there was ambience, there was like no sound. From what I remember, I don't think there was sound. It was just boards firing.
Yeah, it
You
wasn't that
heard
suspenseful.
no, it wasn't. It was more no music during that scene. This one you got some music, and I liked it. I thought it was really good. So I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Nice. Um, I don't know. The first one it didn't have the music in it, and I think that was just the copy I saw. So I can't really compare it in that aspect. But to me, this music just felt kind of generic. It didn't really blow me away or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the scene where they're fighting. That was definitely much more suspenseful with the music because it'd be kind of awkward without it, I think. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I just thought it was generic. Like it didn't stand out to me like the Dracula music or the Frankenstein music. Those ones to me are a lot more iconic and really stand out a lot more to me. And this just felt like your average, oh, we need a musical score. Okay, let's throw it in here. But not bad, but nothing spectacular either.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Hmm.
Back, it's funny, right? Because we're in the present time and we have tons of great composers, right?
Right,
Like
right.
now, I mean, we did have back then too. It's not like I'm not taking away nothing, right? But I mean, the guy who did Psycho, what's the name? Bernard. I always forget his
Oh,
name.
Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah, him. Right? Like when you hear his stuff, you're like, oh my god. You hear James. What's his name? Hans Zimmer. You're like, oh my god. You can hear his stuff. You know, it's him. James. Williams. John Williams is
Oh, John
score.
Williams. Yeah.
Right. So like when you hear those things, you go, wow. I agree with you in that. House of Wax doesn't have like that memorable soundtrack to it, but maybe it's pretty cool. It's a product of its time, right? I guess you got to say, because The
Yep.
Birds doesn't have, and that's an iconic movie, but that doesn't have a good soundtrack. You
Good
know what I
point.
mean?
Good point. No, it
So
does not.
no, it don't, and it's all ambient, right? Because you hear the birds go smacking into things, and you're like, oh my god, you people screaming, and so I guess it just falls on what product the music enhances, I guess, that product to me. So House of Wax, is it memorable in the soundtrack? No, but I think it did make the movie way better than 33. The original. That's just me. But yeah.
All right. So what is your official Letterboxd score tallying up all those points there?
My official is a 4 out of a 5.
Nice. All right. And so I think I already know the answer to this, but would you recommend this one over the original one or vice versa?
To be really honest with you, it's very tricky. I always tell people watch the original then the remake. I always tell people that. I mean, I told you that many times. Watch the original, then watch the remake, and then you choose. If you solely go, hey Alex, you have to pick just one. Which one I would pick? I would pick the Vincent Price over the 33. But to be really honest with you, by a margin, I think 33 could hold his ground. Even let's say the House of Wax that was never made with Vincent Price. The Mystery of the Wax Museum is still a great movie.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so it's not like it's garbage at all. I personally think if you have time, watch the original, watch Vincent Price's version, make your own choice. If not, then go with the Vincent Price because he's a way better actor than the older guy. But I think they both have a hell of a movie. So to me, it's torn. I always say watch both, but I for this, I will say the 53 House of Wax for me.
Nice. All right. Excuse me. For my score, I gave it a 3.4 out of 5. So I'll be rounding that to a 3 out of 5. And that's only 1 point shorter than I gave the original. I gave that one a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, you did.
So there's some things I liked more in the original, some I like more in this one. So I'm kind of in a similar boat, but if I were to pick, I would say the original, just because I like the ambience of that one. I really like the coloring, the 2-color process they had. That really made the wax figures pop out for me. I think it's on par with like Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. I really like those movies. And so to me, that one would fit in better with those ones. This movie, I think I don't think it would fit in very well with that type of horror movie, if that makes sense. This one to me is a lot more glitzy, a lot more glamorous. And, Vincent Price, he's like in his own league when it comes to this. I probably put it more with the Hammer movies, like with the Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. Right. Yes, and Tarkin. Yep.
Yeah. Tarkin, yeah.
I personally like the original one more.
But that's not. It's not even wrong, right? It's not even that bad. To be like, oh my God, Harrison, you're wrong.
Right.
He's gonna be the 53.
How could
but
you?
That's the cool. Yeah, like it. But that's the cool part, right? Like, why are we discussing this? You got to finally watch both. You like the original over the Vincent Price. While you like Vincent Price more as an actor, but you like the original because of the entire body of work over the newest overall one, right?
Yep.
So, and that's the cool thing about when you're discussing film with someone. And that's the thing that I try to tell people. You cannot go down people's throats with opinions, whether it's superhero movies and Star Wars and Star Trek. Like if you say something wrong, God forbid, everyone starts going down your throat. Right. You're wrong. This movie's the best thing. Yeah, this movie's the best thing that ever came out. And then pretty much they're trying to take away that fun. And it's like, no, the whole point of film is to have a great discussion with the other person, in front of you, or, that's listening to you or watching you on the YouTube. So for me, I always like this stuff. That's why I always like doing it with Nate when we do redo, we don't. We watch movies we never seen before, the original and reboot, and we have a discussion. Then everyone discuss it, on the live. Even when we do it here, we have more other stuff that we could do down the line when you want to do it. And I know you have a whole schedule and everything, but we have other movies that we could do this type of stuff with that I know for a fact that you would enjoy. That you go, wow, this is cool. But the cool thing is that if you've never seen the original and the reboot, it's a fun thing because you're going, wow, you see how technology got from where the original was. Watch when you see The Fly, because we're gonna do The Fly. Watch when you see The Fly, the original Fly with Vincent Price on it, right? Then you see the Jeff Goldblum. You're gonna go, holy crap, it's like night and day in terms of, but it's just the way they tell the story. To me, is what makes these fun to sit down and watch it. Like, wow, how did they take that original and how did they make this remake better than the original? And to me, I always said it, The Fly, to me, is the best way to remake a movie. You get to see that. They took a little bit aspects from that original, but then the guy made it his own.
Right.
And you get to see that. I don't know if you've seen those movies.
Not yet.
So it's going to be really fun when we sit down and we do it. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a blast sitting down across from you because I know you love this type of stuff. So it's actually gonna be pretty fun. So in terms of this is, again, like I said, the newest one from 2005, House of Wax, has nothing to do with these two movies. The only thing they took was the wax and it's in a house. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much they did, and everything else is just a modern horror movie version of House of Wax, pretty much. Nothing else. And I guarantee you, if you would have saw that, you would never choose that version over the Vincent Price. You would be like, Vincent Price all the way. I like that 100 times better. So, and it has a better story. But a lot of people, I tell you right now, a lot of people that I talk to love the 2005 remake. Way better than the original. Well, this is not original. This is more of a remake than the Mystery House Museum. But to a lot of people, this is the original. So they like it better than the Vincent Price. So I'm like, all right. To each his own. But yeah, this is cool. I mean, look, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and further down the road, we might do something like The Thing, for example. Like,
I never saw the original.
I haven't either, but that's another one where people think the 80s one is the original, then the 2011 is the remake. But no, there's the 50s one too.
I never saw the 50s version. I mean, we saw the 80s version all over the place, but I never seen the 50s thing before. So that'll be really fun to sit down and do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on again, Alex. This is a blast. I had a great time.
Fun. Yeah, no, this is great. I like doing the whole reboot. I love doing this stuff. Even rewatching them again, and it's fun. I can't wait for The Fly because I like the original a lot. Jeff Goldblum, I like that one a lot too. So I can't wait to see what your thoughts are in the original too. So you guys want to follow me on Instagram, is Action Movie Guys Podcast. That's our Instagram page for everything. And then of course, you guys could follow us on our YouTube channels, Geeks and Flix, where you can watch us live Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have live action hero tournament that's going on right now. Then we have the director spotlight, which we're doing Steven Spielberg. So again, we're going to watch all 33 of his movies and we're going to rank them all. Again, within a 3-month span, I believe that's how we're going to do it because we're not doing it all in one shot.
No,
we're actually breaking them up. Yeah, that's way too much. We're breaking them up into 11 films per month. And then at the end, we do all 33 rankings live with everybody. So we always encourage everybody. If you have not seen a lot of Steven Spielberg's work or any of the directors that we're doing, we encourage everyone to watch it. So when we're doing this live, at least you know what we're talking about. But we do all the work for you guys, and I do graphics and videos, so you guys can see the videos that we're, the movies that we're talking about. So you get to see some trailer clips, and I put posters and information, awards of the films and director stuff. So that's Director Spotlight. We have Reboot Do We Don't, which is similar to what we did here. We take an original, then we watch that one, then we watch the reboot, and then live we discuss it in front of everyone live. We're into that stuff again. That's Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, in terms of the Action Movie Guys podcast, if you guys are into action movies, this is for you guys. You guys can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you listen to their podcast on. This month in May, we are tackling 007, Dr. No, Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice. Nate never seen the 007, so we're doing the Sean Connery
heck
era.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be our franchise. And then for May, we're going to be doing Tear of the Sun. We're doing Armageddon, The Jackal, The Last Man Standing, and of course, Last Boy Scout. So I guess that's Bruce Willis month, part 2. We're going to be doing some Bruce Willis month there also. So again, guys, if you're into action movies, Action Movie Guys podcast on, again, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast on, Action Movie Guys podcast. But other than that, thank you so much, Harrison, for having me here. It's been great.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Alex. And everyone, make sure to follow him on Instagram and all the places he mentioned. Links will be in the description. And also make sure to follow myself, Really Old Movies, pretty much everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the works. And new episodes of this podcast come out Saturdays, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, the works. And that's all I got going on. And thank you all so much. This has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. It's my guest, Alex. Take care.
Bye-bye.